So once again, going to take a look through Marco Pierre White's BBC Maestro series on cooking food. Each time he picks out an ingredient and says how you can turn this into 3-star Michelin. Not 1-star Michelin, not 2-star Michelin, but 3. And he's always doing this, which means he's very serious.
Simplicity on a plate, but 3-star flavours.
Anyway, today, if you haven't read the title, steak with snails. Now, if you watched my previous live stream where I did Heston Blumenthal's snail porridge, you'll know I had great trouble getting hold of snails, but I did get some. So I thought, I've got these snails left over. Oh, just isn't it convenient that Marco also has a restaurant for steak with snails? So I get to use both halves. There's actually, shall we say, a little tear in his eye when he talks about this dish, because he tells a story about the first time he met Anthony Bourdain, the much missed food I don't know, videographer? That's not even a good word for it, but he had these great series of travelling around. I read his book about working in a kitchen decades ago and thought it was absolutely amazing. It costs an absolute fortune now. I'm glad I read it when I did. But he cooks this, a Delmonico steak with snails, the first time he ever met him, and he says, with a slight sniff, this is dedicated to him.
And all I can say is that I miss him. In memory of Anthony.
So let's give it a go ourselves. You can find a version of this in Marco's Mirabelle cookbook. Simply steak with snails, mentioned there. Grilled ribeye steak with snails and garlic butter. Just a slight tweak on it he does here. Let's have a look at the ingredients. Now we have a steak. Marco actually calls for a ribeye steak. I fancy a bavette tonight, so I've got bavette. It's not very similar to ribeye at all. It's not very fatty, needs very fast cooking. But it's still going to be really tasty, I know it is. And then we've got the snails themselves, just half a dozen there. Some garlic butter. Again, if you watched my live stream, you'll know we made a garlic parsley butter that was really, really tasty. So I'm using some more of it here. And then some mushrooms. Again, a deviation from the recipe. Marco, bless him, calls for girolles and trompette de la motte, which are extremely expensive mushrooms and very hard to get hold of. Not too difficult if you live near a Waitrose, but I don't. So I've just gone with chestnut mushrooms, which I've already sliced because I really like them. First thing to do is just get the mushrooms on. And this part is super, super simple. Again, having already sliced them, we're just going to lay them in a tray, like so. Again, you could use any mushrooms you like, why not? And then we're just going to spray that liberally with some olive oil, salt and pepper, and then I'm going to pop them under a grill just to start singeing. Let's go give them a grill. Adding lots of oil to a very, very, very hot pan. That's going to make life simple for us. I'm just going to cook that steak straight into that hot fat and just leave it there undisturbed for about 3 minutes. Flip, and then we're pretty much done. Season as we go. Here we go with that bavette. And leave that there.
Season generously. Taking into consideration that a large percentage will wash off in the pan.
You mustn't touch steak while it's cooking. Just leave it be. Absolutely do not touch it at all. If you keep moving it around, it's never going to scorch to caramelise. If you want to be posh, you can put the Maillard reaction. That's the browning that occurs in meats and other things when they hit and get hot. It's the sugars in the meat browning. So a couple of minutes now. See, starting to really colour there. Season that other side. Season it from a height so that it can spread around the whole dish. See, by using a temperature probe you can see temperature probe tells us that the fattest part of that steak is barely started really, 20 odd degrees. A bavette steak you do not overcook, you absolutely cannot. It's got very little fat in it, so it just can't survive that cooking process. Rather unconventionally, I find, Marco doesn't say to rest it somewhere else. I usually put mine on a board to rest. He says, just take it off the heat, leave it in the pan to rest. Let's find out. And now we're going to cook the snails. I've got ready cooked snails, so I'm just going to singe them in a hot pan. Marco's really keen that you listen to your food, and he's absolutely right, because that sizzling sound is water escaping from the food. And when you start to remove the water, you start to concentrate the flavour. Adding the snails now.
Once you get over your fears of eating snails, then you can enjoy life. They're so delicious, with garlic butter, with steak, with mushrooms. Sensational. Blink yourself if you have to, but try them. They're amazing.
Just going to give them a little edge, just going to burn them slightly, catch them. They've got a nice char, just like the steak. Adding some of that lovely garlicky butter. That'll do. Going to remove them from the heat now. Just removing them all from the heat now. It's time to assemble, time to plate up. Take our wonderful bavette. We're just going to slice that on the bias because steak always looks nice like that, doesn't it? You see there, bavette just falling apart. Quite rare in the middle. How it should be served. And here's our mushrooms. Never ceases to amaze me. We had a whole tray full of mushrooms there. And to be honest, that's too many mushrooms for prettiness' sake. But I'm not going to waste any. Our snails drowning in that garlic butter. We're just layering on one more seasoning there. And then Marco has this big thing about fresh herbs to wash the palate. He says it all the time in his videos. Wash the palate. And I know what he means. You know, when you have fresh herbs on a dish, it just freshens it up. Do you know what? I am going to tidy that up. Because, you know what? The world needs thumbnails. I'm going to add a little more olive oil. Just to help things along. Marco's absolute favourite. A bit more salt. So there we go. Steak with snails, served with parsley and mushrooms. It couldn't be simpler, really. Let's tuck in. Get a bit of snail, bit of snake. Snake?
Snake! Snake!
It's not snake, it's mushroom, bit of parsley. Get a bit of everything.
I like butter. A life without butter is not a life. Calories are delicious. They make everything taste better.
Now that's got a punch. If you watched my snail porridge video, you'll know that I was a bit underwhelmed by the snails. Make a bit more sense here. Being caramelised, being tossed in garlic butter, means they act as a seasoning for the whole dish and really tasty. Pairing them with mushrooms, another earthy flavour. And then the pungency of a vibrant steak, the iron flavour, is really tasty. And then finishing with parsley, as he says, to wash the mouth, so you get a burst of freshness every so often. Just really helps things along.
Be generous with herbs. They make everything fresher. They wash the palate.
Okay, it's not the most complicated recipe in the world. We'll be done pretty quick. But it's really good. If you enjoyed that Marco recipe, check out this one up here for his pomme fondant, or maybe this one down here for his pomme dauphinoise. Potatoes all round. I'm going to finish this.